Today we're going to talk about the 6 things that you need to successfully raise chickens for meat out on pasture. Now 5 of these are going to be absolutely necessary and really obvious, but I have some good tips along the way. Number 6, every pasture poultry farmer needs, but almost none of them are using to their detriment. It costs more labor, you're getting lower feed conversion, but you got to stick around to the end to see what the bonus is. Alright, so number 1, space. Pasture poultry needs pasture. If my chicken tractors are 6 feet by 10 feet and they move anywhere from 28 to 35 times in the rotation of each batch of birds, if it's 35 times and it's 10 feet long, I need a 350 foot long stretch of property. You can make an L, you can make a U, you can get really creative, but you need a stretch of property, and ideally you want to have it close to a water source and close to some access, so when you need to bring food out, you're not using your shoulders. You only get one set of shoulders, one set of arms, one back. You don't want to throw your back out. This can be very hard work if you do not plan appropriately. Now I have them set up where I've got water drops through all these buildings and I can run them up and down this field, nice straight runs. I have wet spots in the field during the year, but that's for another video. All in all, beautiful space, wonderful part of my farm, having pasture poultry. Now I know that scene looked really beautiful, but didn't start that way. I started in another property, out on my own with the back of a box truck, like a semi, that was all rotted out, that I fixed up and turned into my brooder. And then I had an 8 foot by 20 foot shipping container with a leaky roof. I found that out when the grain got wet, that I also had to repair, and I would beg or borrow equipment from my friends and neighbors in order to get done what I had to get done on the farm. You can start on a shoestring, and proof positive of that is that this is all I had for shelter. Now the shelter, since we're talking about shelters, let's talk about these chicken tractors. Chicken tractors are a floorless mobile shelter that you can raise. This is set up for broiler chickens. You can have egg-laying chickens, ducks, turkeys, piglets. You know, you can put a variety of animals in there. It's a relatively all-purpose chicken tractor, but their core purpose started out as chickens for meat. When I go to move these, the rope that I'm grabbing is sized enough where I bend my knees, I can grab the rope, I straighten my legs, and I have a little slight lean back, and that's all it takes for me. It's not a lot of muscle. The reason why they're easy to move is because they have wheels on the back. And those wheels, there's all kind of creative wheel setups that you can have for your chicken tractors. At their most basic, I just have a galvanized bolt through the back here, and I slide one set of wheels on for each chicken tractors. So I can use 2 wheels, one set, for up to 8 chicken tractors is my typical run. You can get creative with that, but at the end of the day, the takeaway here is mobility. These things need to move. They need to get off of yesterday's poop and onto tomorrow's salad bar. Speaking of the salad bar, that brings us a nice transition in the feed. I didn't even plan that. 90% of your problems, if you are having problems with your birds, has to do with feed. Now, all of my feed I get sourced locally, and that's really important. I want to have a conversation with the person who is milling my feed about what ingredients went into it, what is the recipe, where those came from, and how long ago it was milled, because you want to use feed in a 14 to 30 day period because it will start to oxidize and go stale, and that will make the birds picky and they won't eat all of it, or they might get very selective. It's important to know where your feed is sourced from because you don't want to have mycotoxins that be on the grain get into the feed, which will then cause a lack of protein uptake in the small intestine, lowering your feed conversion ratio. Your feed goes stale, it gets moldy, the birds don't like it, they don't eat so good, and they don't grow so good. But the key here is you want fresh feed, you want to store it in a cool, dry place if you are able to, and then you want to keep it moving, so you don't want to buy all your feed for 1 year. You want to buy it as you need it if you're able to. At the end of the day, you're going to find out what works for you, and you're going to adapt to your own system. As I'm going through this information, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. The next video that's going to come out is going to be the day-to-day management of broilers out on pasture, and I will answer your questions in this format on that video. Water. They need fresh water, cool water every day, not hot water, not dirty water. Fresh, cool water at all times. It's a major factor in their health and how they convert feed and how well they grow. So when I go in and I feed, I will dump out their old water and I will fill it with new water, and they're just drinking from nipples out of the bottom of a bucket. But when I go to water them, I will let this hose completely run out, and if it's been sitting out in the sun, I'll let the water cool down before I give the birds another drink, and I will check on them on really hot days to make sure it's topped off so that they have access to water so they can help regulate their body temperature and then convert that feed into yummy, delicious chicken for my future dinner. Number 5. Data, or data, depending on who you talk to. Look at this guy writing stuff down on a piece of paper. I'm supposed to be the technology guy. Piece of paper. I love paper because it's foolproof. It's out there. You can't forget it. These sheets get gross by the end of a rotation because I'll be handling birds and using these reusable shopping bags to weigh them in the field with a fish scale and get a live weight so I know how I'm doing before we get to slaughter day. And then I'll write it down. The data that you need to collect anytime you spend money or time on the birds doing something, have a quick note. Quick note on a piece of paper that you can look at later, so when you say at the end of this, was it worth it? Did I get my money's worth? Was it worth all the effort? You have something to go on. The lightest ink is better than the sharpest memory. Better to have written down even a partial record than try to commit it all to mind. Anybody who says it's all up here, they're full of it. In the last couple of years, the other thing for data collection is my cell phone. I take pictures of the birds in the field. I use those for marketing. I use them for visual instruction when I'm working with other people. If you want to leave your farm for a weekend, having some pictures to tell people and what to do and have some reference material, way helpful. I also can't get enough of chickens, so I take a lot of chicken pictures. If you want to be able to see these pictures up close and some writing, if learning from a video is not necessarily your thing, I've actually turned this video into a blog post. If you head over to farmmarketingsolutions.com, you can search for the 6 things you need to raise broiler chickens on pasture. All right, so what's number 6? What's the thing that everybody needs and nobody has? Grit. That's right, chickens do not have teeth. They have a gizzard, a big muscle right about here, that they swallow rocks and then they swallow their food and they grind up their food as part of the digestive process. They don't have any teeth, and you need to give them grit in order for them to be able to digest their food. But John, isn't it pastured poultry? Can't they get enough rocks from the ground? I urge you, next time you're raising chickens, you don't have to do it in the pen with them, but maybe in tomorrow's move, get down on your hands and knees and look for enough small rocks to feed all the birds that are in your chicken tractor. Plus, they're not going to dig down that far, so once you've run one batch of birds, they've probably collected all the useful size rocks and they're gone now because they grind them down into sand. So I buy granite from my local feed supplier. You can contact the best pasture poultry nutrition company out there for Trell, and they can give you some advice on where to pick up what is the right size and where to find it for your grit. But it's one of those things where it took me 8 weeks on average to raise a 4.5 pound carcass weight for my broiler chickens. Once I started feeding grit, I changed nothing else. I just fed grit. I was able to get the same 4.5 pounds in 7 weeks. That's a week less labor. That's a week less feed. That's a week less that I just have to do the whole show. And I'm getting the same amount of bird without stressing them out or pressuring them to grow faster. Because I gave them teeth, they were able to grow faster on their own, which makes me a better farmer and those happier chickens. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I will see you out in the field. And that's it.